For the fifth part of my little mini series for Microsoft Teams, I want to talk about the documents we work with in Microsoft Teams. So in the previous video, we went through the conversations, and I also covered attaching documents on conversations, and I'll just recap that very quickly. So what happens behind your Microsoft team, of course, is when it's created, it also creates a SharePoint site collection in the background. And any documents that get shared in your teams actually gets put in SharePoint. So if I go to the Files tab of any of the channels, these are actually folders inside of the SharePoint site. So I'm going to just bring across the SharePoint site and just show you. So when you open on a specific channel, it'll open in that folder in SharePoint in the library. So if I go back to the main documents folder, you'll see that there's a folder for each of the channels that got created. So importantly to remember is that if you delete a channel in your Microsoft team, it does not delete the folder in SharePoint. If you delete a folder in SharePoint, it does not delete the channel in Teams. However, if a folder is deleted in SharePoint and you share a document again in the channel in Microsoft Teams, it'll actually recreate the folder on SharePoint. So that's something important to remember. So when I look at the conversations in Teams, if I attach a document here, it's important to remember that this actually gets saved in the specific folder in that SharePoint library. So I can attach it to a conversation and it'll put it in the root folder for that library. So please remember, so the root folder for general, the general folder. If you do work with subfolders, which of course I don't suggest if you can avoid it, but let's say for example in budgets you need to have a folder for each year, and I mean that's possible that we have to work like that. So if I create a new folder here and I create it for 2018 and I'm going to create another folder for 2019, that means that if I'm in the budgets channel and I share a document on this channel, on the conversations, it'll save it in the root folder for budgets. It will not save it in one of the folders. So what you'll have to do if you want to use subfolders is open the folder where you want to save the file under the Files tab, upload the document here, and then when you're in the conversation, so now I've added it in a subfolder in this channel. If I then go to the conversation, I can say, hi guys, here's the new budget, for example. And if I then go attach, I can browse my teams and channels, and then you'll be able to pick from the specific folder. So then I can go to that folder and say, this is the document I want to attach. So of course that helps us to use subfolders, but you'll have to load it first into the Files tab, into the folder, and then just share it in your conversation. And then of course share it as a link, not as a new attachment. That of course helps a lot. So that's sharing the documents in your conversations. Just a reminder as well is that any documents you share in chats get stored in your OneDrive folder under Microsoft Teams chat files. So that goes into OneDrive, and then anything shared in your Teams actually goes to the SharePoint site in the background. So that's attaching documents to conversations and putting them straight in the Files folder. Then also, which I did cover the previous time, if you do have to send documents to specific channels, so I'm going to just get this email address for this channel, and I'm going to send a mail. While I'm just waiting for that to show, I just want to talk about something else. So a lot of times people are worried about this document library in the background, and remember that everyone's got contribution access. So what I normally suggest to the people is if you are worried about the permissions on that document library, just a quick one, there's your email now, and if I go to Files, you'll actually see email messages there. But on this specific folder then, or the document library that you use in the background, what you can do is to set up an alert here. So if you're worried about people deleting stuff and not knowing about it, I would go to the SharePoint document library and simply set up an alert in this library. So that definitely will help you just manage some of the risk if you are concerned about it. I hope that this has helped you a bit looking at how do you share your documents, etc. And then in the last video, we'll talk about productivity and co-authoring.